Good morning, Functionary Toastmaster.
Good morning.
I will try to do this role justice. I am filling in for our Sergeant at Arms, Lynn Levy. You might want to send a prayer or have some thoughts towards them. They are in the hospital. Her husband Bob, our other member, his mom is in hospice state and doesn't expect to live today or live this week, but she's had a wonderful life, 98 years old.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, please put them in your thoughts. Make sure you put your phone on silence. And if you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Seated. All right. So our club, if you didn't know, has a mission. Our mission is that we provide a supportive and positive learning environment in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. When you leave this morning, you may feel more self-confident and have experienced some personal growth. Do not be alarmed. This is to be expected.
All right.
You know, there's only one person that can really do that justice. That's the Rich Massa. I attempted. We have a full schedule today. We have 3 speakers. I'd like to welcome our Toastmaster for the morning, Miss Sowjanya.
Mom, I'm having nightmares, said my 7-year-old this morning, with a concerned face. When I asked her why, she said, "School, I don't want to go back to school." Good morning, fellow Toastmaster and good guests. Back to school. This week is back to school, and school starts this Friday in Seminole County. If you're like me, if you have young kids, this is a bittersweet moment. On one hand, you'll have the house for yourself. No kids running around. On the other hand, you're back to this strict army-style regiment/schedule where you have to balance work, school, tests, after-school programs, you name it. But it is what it is. We all enjoy. We all actually push ourselves to go to that next grade. That's what we've done since our young age, right? And that's exactly what we do here too at our Toastmasters. We push ourselves to become a good speaker. And for our first technical table introduction today, everybody's filling in. For our timer, we have Skip.
Toastmasters. My function is a timer to time the speakers, evaluators, and table topic participants to ensure they meet the timing requirements. I will demonstrate the timing lights, which will be displayed as follows. Green for speakers at 5 minutes, yellow at 6 minutes, 7 minutes is red, and the table topics, 30 seconds, 45 seconds is yellow, and red is 1 minute. I apologize for that. Thank you.
Next we have our grammarian, Claudia.
Toastmasters, guests, and other Toastmaster members. As a grammarian, I have 2 basic responsibilities. First, I'm going to provide the word of the day, which is impel. Impel means to urge or drive forward, or as if by the exertion of strong pressure. Example, I felt impelled to correct the misconception. I will keep track of who uses the word correctly, and then you can tap on the table once you hear it. Second, I would listen for incorrect and awkward use of the English language in order to offer suggestions for improvement. Exceptional use will also be noted and reported as time allows. Thank you.
For our Al counter, again, filling in, Daniel.
All right, Daniel.
How are you doing today?
Very good.
As a counter, I impel you to participate in active listening. It is my job to listen to you as you speak and catch those filler words, those clutch words, ahs, ums, ers, you knows, so's, buts, you likes, lip smacks, anything that you would do that would detract from the strength, purpose, and meaning behind your words at a subconscious level with your audience. I look forward to presenting my report at conclusion.
Moving on to our speeches for our first speech today, speaking from Competent Communication Manual number 6, Vocal Variety. Use voice volume, pitch, rate, and quality to reflect and add meaning to the message you're talking about. Insights on the journey, the immense learning power of the spoken word. Here is our Toastmaster, John Costa.
Thank you. Madam Toastmaster. Yes, let's just do this. Grab a sheet. In honor of our children. It's hot out there in the sun. It's not hot under here, under the house. Now it is night. 3 dogs at a party in a boat at night. Ding, 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 ding. Dogs at work. Work dogs work. Dogs at play. Play dogs play. Hello again. Hello. Do you like my hat? I do not like that hat. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye. And so it goes. How many parents do we have in the room today? Excellent. You remember doing this, working with your kids at night, bedtime, story time, maybe singing songs with them, or making up characters as you read their stories. We painstakingly worked with our children at very young ages to show them the power of the spoken word, to help them learn reading power. And how many of your children had these books completely memorized, yet every night, again, read that story again, because it was fun. It was engaging. You were engaging multiple senses is what you were doing. They were looking at the pictures. They were listening to you speak. They were even able to articulate and put their own thoughts and sound stuff into the stories. So we spent so much time teaching them about the power of the spoken word and audio as part of the learning process as they memorize these stories. And they got ready for school. And we basically said, all right, read it yourself now. We're done. You're going to school, be quiet, read your homework, and do your work. I'm going to share 3 personal stories about learning and how the spoken word and audio is a very important part of the learning process, and how people greatly benefited from the availability of the audio portion of their learning. And then at the end, I'd like to
engage you to help me to promote this. My youngest had a condition, we didn't realize what it was at first. It wasn't until 5th grade when she was diagnosed with this, it's called binocular eye dysfunction. And basically it's a muscle tracking problem. Her eyes, as she's going across the page reading, they would go in different levels and shift back. So she'd try to go to the next line, and she'd sometimes go up a line, or sometimes hit the same line and read the same thing over and over and over again. And that was causing her to not really understand and follow what the heck she was reading. And it wasn't diagnosed until 5th grade when we finally got to the point where she was having so much difficulty with her homework and understanding and starting to take these nationalized tests that we took her to a doctor. And after being pushed along to a few of them, they discovered that she had this eye problem. It was muscular and it was fixable. But what it caused was a lack of understanding of the material. So what the doctors told us is she was doing pretty well in school. She was getting probably B's. She was learning everything from what she heard. She was learning nothing from the reading. Everything was gained from either asking questions or listening intently. So that's why she was so exhausted at the end of the day. One thing they told us is to help her catch up and help her speed along her learning process, get audio books, let her read the material after doing all the exercises we had to do. She had therapy go through, and then listen to the audio track along with it. Her comprehension went through the roof. And what both the doctors and the educators told us is that she was using multiple senses to do this. She was listening to the material and reading it and looking at it at the same time. We were back here, back when the kids were listening and reading and learning very quickly how the story went and what the words were. So. My point being, there are studies from the American Association of Ophthalmology out now that say that 56% of American citizens suffer from some degree of this condition. Who knew that? 56%. So having the audio material inside of your content or available could help a tremendous number of students and a tremendous number of adults. That statistic is only based on people 18 and above. That excludes, because of privacy of data, and all these students from kindergarten through 18 years old. So think about what the power of helping these students who don't even realize that they need assistance to drive through this. My kids, when they do the summer reading now, they follow Anna's lead, and they get the audio book and the paper book, and they kick the audio up to like 1.75x, and they blast through their summer reading, and their comprehension is like, whoosh. Digital audio has come a tremendous way in the last 5 to 10 years. Just listen to, this is where it started. In 1984. This is reading the text.
Think about it. That's what my condo did.
Exactly.
This is today. This is the audio track recorded from a gentleman doing a presentation.
Hola, meu nome é Brian White. Sou Hola amigos, mi nombre es Brian White.
Those are automated intelligence readers that are reading the text, the transcripts from his original presentation. There's no reason why just the written word inside of these electronic books couldn't be reading that stuff back to you. So in conclusion, what I'd like to do, we talked about the power and the benefits gleaned from toddler age up through adult learning. That's what this was for. This was a sales presentation, international sales presentation, to teach people how to sell their product. I'd like to ask if you feel that mandating or demanding that audio be included as part of the learning process as we move now into the digital world of learning. Just write on the top of your review form, audio, and that will indicate to me that there's an interest in supporting the use of audio in the learning process and all the learning materials that are created. This could be textbooks, this could be instructional guides, sales guides, children's books. I thank you very much for your time. And look forward to presenting again. Thanks.
1 minute on the clock. All right, thank you. For our second speech today, we have an icebreaker, presentation mastery number 1. Delivers speech on any topic as an introduction to the club using any style. After 20 years in Toastmasters, Stephen takes his first step on Pathways presentation. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Stephen Morgan with Imagine That.
As a hypnotist, I could tell you many stories. 4 to 6 minutes, I could do 4 to 6 months. Because I've been doing this over 30 years. But the most interesting ones that people love to ask about are the ones that seem to be the funniest. I'm already getting started.
There you go.
One of the funny things about being a hypnotist, the moment you mention it, people are going to ask you questions. Usually, is it real? How do you do it? Does it work? But you can also play this off other people. I discovered a while back that as a secret shopper at Hooters, the Hooters girls are supposed to come up and engage you. They're supposed to talk to you. So when I was a secret shopper, I'd have to answer these questions. Come talk to you, what's so not? At the Toastmasters International Convention in 2003, they were in Atlanta. I went there since it was nearby to see what that was like. On one of those off times, I went to go eat and Hooters was nearby. That was easy. Go and sit down. I'm sitting there alone, so I know what to expect. They're going to have to come up and talk to me, the Hooters girls, right? To engage you, they're going to ask you simple small talk. What do you do? I'm a hypnotist. How did that work? Can you do it right now? Yes, it's actually quite easy to do it right there. Oh, please, just do it to me right there. No problem. I have the girl, there are two of them, I have one of them just, okay, fine, now sit down in the chair to make it easy because the quick and fast instant induction goes really quick, but if you do it really fast, they'll often lose their balance. So sit down. And I want to do just simple, quick, fast instant induction to get her in the trance real quick. And it happens real fast. And the moment I tell her to sleep, she starts laughing. She starts laughing out loud, almost to the point of hysterical. Now, this is not unusual. The instant induction often causes an emotional outburst if there's anything there. The laughing was fun, but different. But the problem was she started sliding right out of the chair because she was laughing so hard. I had to grab her to keep her from falling out of the chair. Now I'm holding the Hooters girl by her Hooters to keep her from falling out of the chair. I couldn't get any further than that at that point because it was just ridiculous, but it was fun to see nonetheless. The instant induction, though, is actually where most of the funniest stories come from. And the way it works is that it's just a startling event that throws your equilibrium off for just an instant. But in that instant, it's easy to get someone to drop in a trance real quick. When I'm teaching hypnosis, I like to explain this, demonstrate it, then have them practice it. But when I'm explaining it, the easiest way to explain instant induction is to point out to people you've seen it. You've seen it happen a lot. Anyone seen a faith healer? Heal! That's an instant induction. They usually come right up, smack on the forehead. You don't know the instant it's going to happen at that moment, and they're saying heal. And that's the actual suggestion. Now, funny enough, that can work if the issue you're healing is just something that needed to come out of your head. But now I want to get them to practice the instant induction. It's usually sleep. It's usually make them lose their balance or sudden surprise. When I'm doing little small groups when we're trying to break apart and pairing up, I'm often pairing up as the one they're going to practice on. There's one woman, which was fascinating, in that she was older, learning it, and the first time anyone practices it, you're always thrown off. Because when you're doing the induction, it's not just sleep, it's sleep, deeper you go, better, feel deeper you go. You have to keep talking as fast as you can to keep them from thinking, because the moment they start thinking, pop right back up. Without fail, the first attempt, they go sleep, and the person trying to be the hypnotist surprises themselves, and they kind of freeze. This one girl was doing real fun because I was sitting there playing along, and though I could go into trance, no problem, she does the hand drop approach, and she's talking to me, getting it started, and she pulls her hand out from under mine, which is supposed to be the surprise. And at that same moment, you're supposed to say sleep. She just froze at that moment, and she's thinking for a bit. And I'm not reacting. Then she just goes up and goes, heal on me. As if that was her version of doing the faith healer approach. And I managed to not break out, but my wife was standing next to her a bit. That was unfortunate. It's always hilarious seeing how they apply it. But then, of course, people hear about the stage shows. They've seen what's fun, the funny parts. And does that really work? It does, because it's about your imagination. When they get up on stage, they know what they're doing, they're willing to be silly, and they're willing to play with the imagination. Back in college, it turned out there was a guy on my dorm floor who was very good at this. He would be a natural somnambulist, if you wish, somebody very suggestible, those indeed worked very well. So one of these times I'm using him as a demonstration. He volunteered. And I said, great, fine. He went into trance. Great, I finally get the suggestion, okay, you'll see all of us as Dungeons and Dragons characters. Fine and easy. Turns out he was actually very good at the hallucinating and visualizing and seeing things that weren't there. When he took that suggestion, he took it a step further. He saw me, for example, as the character I played in the campaign Going on the Floor, which was a bard character. So he's looking through this backpack I don't have on my back, but he's digging through it, digging up like a loot, as an example, and seeing me in the outfits. And the other guy who was standing there was like big robes, the magic user kind of character. I had done the induction in his dorm room. We're actually standing out in the hall while he's looking at us, describing what he sees. Another guy on the floor just walks out of his dorm room, comes walking down the hall. Now the guy I hypnotized, Dave, was watching this other guy go by, I think his name was Chris, and just kind of staring at him like, You're wondering what it is he's seeing. And just watch him walk by. Chris is just looking at you. What are you looking at me so funny for? Because he didn't know what we were doing. After Chris goes around the corner, Dave turns to the rest of us, and that's when we realized what was going through his head. See, Chris's character. Chris was this big, deep bass, very buff, masculine guy walking by. His character in our campaign was female. His character in our campaign was an attractive female. As he's watching him go by. Once Chris goes around the corner, Dave turns to the rest of us, standing there and goes, "He's stacked!" Well, I can't say the Hooters girls quite fit that same mold, but the stories that come out for being a hypnotist are entertaining and engaging. They can be funny, and we love to tell them to get people engaged and interested. The best part, though, is when you can get them to heal, and I don't mean the heal part, but when you can get them to make changes, engage the imagination, all sorts of things can pop out, including material for the next speech, hopefully soon.
One minute on the clock, please. Thank you. Our third speaker, Marvin Correa, is working under the Advanced Manual Specialty Speeches, Project number 2, Uplift the Spirit. The speech is titled, A Little Note. Please welcome Marvin Correa.
It's amazing how a little note changed my life. It was October 1994. I was in the Army at the time, stationed in Panama. That was my first duty station, was Panama. I was a 19-year-old, freewheeling, Spanish speaker in a Spanish-speaking country. At the time of my life, really. I had recently bought a car. It was something unusual in Panama, a 1979 blue Chevy Caprice. If you know about the Caprices, they're nice long hoopty in a sea of small Toyotas and Nissans in Panama. Needless to say, I was a little bit out there, besides being non-Panamanian, and the fact that I had a big old car, it kind of stood out. But I enjoyed it. On this particular Saturday in October 1994, I was going with some Army buddies and some local lady friends to the beach. Very sunny day, as it usually is throughout the year in Panama. We were about halfway through this 90-minute trip, and all of a sudden, pop! Pull off to the side of the road, and sure enough, I have a flat. Great. Not a problem. I had driven before, I had replaced tires before, went ahead and did that. We were on our merry way, got to the beach, enjoyed it. Nice sunny weather with a lot of new friends and old friends. Made it back to the city, and as a responsible young 19-year-old I was at the time, that Sunday I went to this local tire shop called Automo. It was about a mile away from the base, going out the back post, back of the gate. I went there. They normally try to take advantage of you since you, oh, okay, he's not Panamanian, let's charge him a little bit more. But since I spoke Spanish, I could more or less handle it. I went ahead and got my tire replaced, and then something caught my eye. Or should I say, someone caught my eye. I happened to have, I don't know why, but I had a little notepad on me, and on that particular occasion, I decided to write a note, a little note that said, I don't know, there's something about you. Call me. And I left my phone number. And I didn't give it to that person, but I gave it to her coworker who was there. I wasn't, let's say, too shy, or maybe I was shy because I didn't give it to her directly. But I gave it to her coworker, and I didn't know what I was expecting. I was hoping for a call back. It turned out that someone did call me back a few days later, but I found out probably years later that it wasn't actually her who called. It was the coworker who had called. But that was fine. We ended up meeting at a local place. I still know the first place that we went to was called Don Li. It was a local Chinese restaurant. Very enjoyable time. 9 months later, after we first met, October 1994, we got married. 9 months later, I was still 19 at the time. I told my parents after the fact. Needless to say, they were a little surprised, but we made the decision. And I don't think it was a formal proposal. It was more like, hey, let's get married. It's like, yeah, sure. 23 years later, 4 kids later, much travels and much trials and tribulations, partly mostly because of my mistakes. But I'm here. And the fact that what's significant, what I think about is like that little note. If I had not written that little note, my life would have been so different. And I'm very glad I did. 23 years later, going strong through ups and downs, again, mostly because of my doing. But what if I hadn't written that? I don't even think about that because it's not something that I look back and say, what if this would have happened? No, this is my life and I enjoy it. Now, the question for you is, it was a gut instinct for me to do that. Are there things that you are putting off, that you are not deciding on, that you should be doing? Could there be something that you do now, today, that can affect your life significantly in the future? I tell my kids, save, 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 so you can invest a certain amount in the future. It's difficult to think about it now for kids, but it's something that you need to do. Or I tell my son also, If there's someone that you see that you want to talk to, go ahead and make the conversation. You never know. It happened to me. I'm so glad I wrote that little note. I'm here 23 years later, and I'm expecting to be at least 50 years more if possible. So write that note, make that decision, talk to someone that you think you have a gut instinct to talk to. I impel you to do it.
One minute on the clock, please. Thank you. Now to the educational portion of our meeting. Please welcome our General Evaluator, Julia Hoffman.
All right, it is that part of our meeting, the most important part of our meeting, where we get to hear feedback on our presentations, ranging from the topic to our body gestures to how we presented ourselves to our vocal variety. All of that gets wrapped up in this portion. We're going to get right to our evaluation, starting with our first evaluator, Mauricio. We'll be evaluating John's speech on again.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, and of course, John. Again and again, I really liked your story. I think from the beginning, it was captivating. So for everybody, the evaluation is vocal variety. And it was a hard speech to evaluate because it wasn't one where you had a lot of emotion, but I think at the very beginning, you kind of drew us in when you read the story, and it was soft and it was engaging, and it reminded me of me reading stories to my kids. I don't remember my dad ever reading stories to me, but that's another topic for that. Topic. I'm just going to go through some of the things here because this actually doesn't give you a lot of space to fill in, but there are certain items that it asks me to rate you on. So one of them is topic selection. I think it was great. It was satisfactory. It was geared around the topic vocal variety, and you talked about using voice to enhance learning, and I think that's great. And it was something that came out as being that you're very passionate about because that's the trade, that's what you're in. So that was something that you could tell from the speech itself. In terms of volume, I'm actually sitting in that corner over there, and it was hard for me to hear because I could hear, even through the doors, could still hear the sound of the refrigerators there, and then there's the music playing. And then also you kind of stood over here, which it references some of your notes, and I think it kind of distracted or it drew away from the sound, and then you had the chair in the middle. I think it would have been great for you to come out to the front and then maybe work on taking deeper breaths and try to have your voice come out a little bit more. I think that would have made it great. I think you had great emphasis. You know, there were parts of the speech when you actually used the value. There are a couple sections when you were talking about the use of voice in recordings on the learning, and you said that they had a blast And so there were certain parts throughout the speech that he kind of highlighted, emphasized certain words, and I think that worked out great. Your rate was excellent, it was very varied. You had varied conversational pitch throughout the speech, I think that was great. And so one thing, and I'm sure the other fellow Toastmasters will agree with me, that the quality of your speech has improved tremendously. I've seen from your very first speech to where you are right now, even though there's still things that we're all working on, but just in general, how you carry through the speech and even the ums and ahs, and I don't know what the report is going to come out, but for me it was very clean, it was very good, it wasn't distracting at all. I think you've come a very long way in your speeches, and I'm really glad that you're doing that progress. The organization of the speech was great. There was a call to action to engage the audience to write things back that will help you maybe gauge a little knowledge from us as to how you're doing. Gauging getting some metrics on people's choice for audio. Your body language, I think, could be improved a little bit. Like I said, you were standing back here a little bit. So maybe work on that and just come out a little bit more. And I would probably just say, I kind of suffer from the same thing. I have a very soft voice, but I think doing some breathing exercises, maybe getting hypnotized by Steve to speak a little bit louder would help you. But great speech. I'm looking forward. Like I said, you've done a great job. You've improving a lot, and I'm glad. And looking forward to your next speech.
We're going to impel right into the next evaluation with our evaluator, James here, is evaluating Stephen Morgan. Imagine that.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests. And Stephen is a DTM, so of course he gets a critical evaluation that some of you others may get away with. Of course, we all grow. Stephen excels at Toastmasters. He's been Toastmasters for quite a number of years. And first, I'm going to give the good points. If there's some points, some things to work on, and hopefully wrap with some more good points. Okay. He excels in clarity. 1 out of 5, where 5 is best. 5 in clarity, a 4 in book variety, 5 in eye contact, 5 in gestures, 4 in audience awareness, and a 5 in confidence level, and then a 4 in interest. Stephen is very confident. I tell you, he's a good speaker. He enjoys what he does. Great eye contact. He's seasoned. Seasoned gestures. All throughout his speech, he gave seasoned gestures where you could see and picture what he was doing. For example, know what to expect was one of the questions that he threw out there. What do you do? Somebody asked him. Okay, and he went through the gestures of like this. What do you do? Okay, and then he sat down. All those are good gestures for speeches. Evaluation agenda is you excelled at, I gave you that, then you may want to work on. This is very important. Say the subject again and again and again. Imagine that. Imagine that. You didn't say that but one time up front as far as I can remember. So I impel you to say the subject throughout your speech, because, for example, in the very beginning, it became clear that this was probably excerpts from a 20-minute speech, so you're narrowing it down. So when you focus it down, you got to pull out the certain main points, so you keep the continuity of the subject. So keep reminding the audience where you're going with repeating the subject. Okay, to challenge yourself. Focus a 20-minute presentation to 5 minutes. There's lots of great material. It's well presented. Wrap around the conclusion to the very beginning. I remember it's an icebreaker. So you're introducing the audience to who I am. You are a hypnotist. So maybe an example of hypnotizing somebody. Let me take too much time. Keep it simple, keep it simple. I really enjoyed it. You did a great job. I look forward to your next speech. Madam, let's go.
All right. morning is going to be given by Martin Bell, evaluating our last speaker, Mr. Marvin Correa.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, Marvin, for uplifting our spirits today. Elevando nuestros espíritus. I personally enjoyed your speech and the way that you delivered your story. Personally, some of my favorite stories that my dad has told to me were of himself driving his brand new car, a convertible, across the United States and through Mexico, and I personally connected with your story. I could just imagine you as you were traveling in Panama with a big smile on your face wherever you went in that beautiful car. Marvin's objective was to develop a speech that effectively expresses inspirational content, and moving the audience. And Marvin, I thought you did connect with all of us today, and you moved each and every one of us. As I was looking around the room, everyone was totally engaged in your story. And the way that you told this story, I thought, was effective, because you have this very smooth, relaxed, calm, cool way of telling us a story vividly. We could all picture you in Panama. And I thought you transitioned it very smoothly into one of the biggest moments of your life, one that I believe connected you with this beautiful lady next to you. So one of the ways I thought you connected is that you kept bringing us in. For example, at least 3 or 4 times you mentioned, if I had not written that little note, if I had not written that little note, we're all thinking about, well, what notes should I write, or what messages should I get across, or what introductions should I make of my own that could possibly impact my life. So I enjoyed your delivery on the story. I think you connected well with everybody. Importantly, I think that speech did fit the expectations of the audience, but in the notes it asked me to ask the audience, everyone, did it uplift your spirit today?
Yes.
So I've got a few. There's just one piece I might offer for future speeches, because I was waiting on this, and I'm still waiting for an introduction. And so Marvin, I impel you to introduce us.
This is my wife, Anna Korea.
Well done. Thank you
job.
very much. Well, wonderful speeches this morning, wonderful evaluations, wonderful Toastmaster. I didn't say very, I said wonderful. The room was set up beautifully, I might add. Actually, Stephen prepared the tables. This room takes a lot to get set up, so you really, give that Sergeant Arms a little pat on the back whenever you see her, because she sets it up beautifully and everything around you is ready to go when we start our meeting. So Johnny, this is your second time around as Toastmaster. There's a lot of prep time that goes into being the Toastmaster, but it's very rewarding when you see the fruit of your effort, and you did a marvelous job getting it prepared and planning and then executing your role, so thank you for that. Speaker, every member of Lake Mary Toastmasters, I impel you, go into Easy Speak. It is our tool. Everyone is guilty of not getting in there, some more than others, to confirm your role, to put in your speech title, your speech introduction. I don't think anyone had an introduction this morning. Shame on, did you have an introduction? Okay. All right. I guess I was probably distracted, so I apologize. But make sure you put your introduction. That just sets your speech up, right? Also, communicate with the Toastmaster in advance as as far as you can. That's probably our biggest thing that we least do in our club, is to make sure we keep our speeches up there. Our VP of Ed gets our meetings in there, so you can go in advance and put your role in that you want to take, or your speech, and so line that up. Other than that little rant, great meeting. I will now turn the lectern over to our president, Mr. Stephen Morgan. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I forgot the technical table. A little rusty. All right, starting out with our off counter, Daniel, our area director. Thanks for filling in. How we do on our ahs and ums and
I must say, this was indeed a fun time. Julia, starting with you. One so, one like, or you know. A double clutch, you did RR. And you did 2 all rights. They were just.
all right, all right, all right.
I needed one more.
Sowjanya, you had 2 ahs, ums, or ers, 1 well. Skip, you did 3 ahs, ums, or ers. John, 4 ahs, ums, or ers, 5 so's. You did an or, a what it, and a lip smack. Steve, 1 ah, 3 so's, 1 but. And this almost caught me. This I would classify as a clutch. Because you started to say something, then you switched gears. You did, what is it real? And I think you were trying to say something solid, but you paused and kind of changed gears.
That's what I call a double clutch.
Yeah. Marvin, you had 1 ah, 1 so, 1 but, 1 you know. You did a lip smack and you did I twice. I have to say though, of the speakers I've listened to so far, you seem to catch yourself more when you were about to do that. And kind of went, and pause, and then continue. I was like, oh, I bet you anything there was gonna be something there. Foiled again! Mauricio? Mauricio?
Mauricio.
You had 6 ahs, ums, or ers, 2 so's, 2 buts, 1 like or you know. You did a lip smack, you did the, I. You did those a couple times. James, you had, you did an okay, was kind of out there, but then you did a couple double clutches. You did he's, that he, and Martin, you take the cake for ahs, ums, and ers with 10.
Man, I gotta come more often.
It's been a while.
You did have 1 so though. You did throw a little variety.
Good.
Claudia, you had 1 ah, or and 1 well. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Daniel. All treasurer is not here collecting our money for that. 5 cents in counter. I will collect it because we racked up some money today. I think I just should have double checked. Our timer, because we are down to 1 minute to wrap up our technical table. What is our time? Quickly, please. Rapid fire.
I will impel myself to give the report. So John Costa, total time requests 7 max, finished at 8:42. Steve Morgan finished at 7:18. Marvin, you finished at 7:27. And then Mauricio, under the evaluations, 3:55. We've got James at 2:40, and then we had Martin at 2:30, and that concludes my timer's report.
Thanks, Marion, please.
I am impelled to congratulate Julia for using the word 2 times, and also Marvin, James, Martin and Skip for using the word of the day once. Thank you very much.
And Chloe.
Thank you.
And
That concludes this portion of the meeting. I turn it over to Mr. Morgan.
All right, a couple minutes left because we skipped table topics. Oh darn, I'm sure you're all disappointed. I'd love to hear what our guests have for feedback. Welcome back. What did you think about it this time?
Well, it's always a pleasure. And I thought that today it was more interesting because I related to, like, I could actually understand all of the topics. Yeah. Because back to school is kind of my life. So, yeah, that was good.
Be a while since we see you again, I take it then.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Anna, if you'd be willing to tell us what you thought of the meeting.
It's always nice to meet nice people and have a great vibe and like positive vibe. And I'm here because my husband told me to come.
And Daniel, doing our official area director visit this morning.
I have to say, I sincerely hope that the other club visits that I perform are as delightful, engaging, and welcoming as this one. You definitely set the bar high for this area.